LiberalViewer presents.
So even the defense attorney for undocumented immigrant Juan Francisco Lopez-Sanchez admits his client was carrying the gun that shot and killed Kate Steinle almost a year ago now on a San Francisco pier, but there's real dispute as to whether he actually pulled the trigger and strong evidence he had neither the intent nor the malice required for a murder charge in California, as you can see from the local ABC report on the case last year in this clip.
Public defender Matt Gonzalez called his only witness, Jim Norris, former head of the San Francisco Police Crime Lab. Gonzalez believes the gun Francisco Lopez-Sanchez is accused of firing accidentally discharged in his hand. Norris's testimony supported Gonzalez's position. He said the weapon, a 6 Sauer 40 caliber similar to this one, has no safety switch, and the weapon has a trigger that requires little force to pull, thus supporting the defense position that it could have accidentally gone off. A police investigator has also testified that the bullet hit the ground and ricocheted, fatally striking her in the back. Outside the courtroom, Norris told reporters he does believe Sanchez unintentionally shot Kate Steinle.
This is not the way you would try to shoot somebody. I mean, you can't ricochet bullets off of surfaces and try to hit somebody. You'd aim the gun at the person and shoot them.
Now, as a former public defender myself, I completely agree with the defense that the facts in this case are consistent with an accidental ricochet, making it very difficult to prove the intent and the malice to convict someone of murder beyond a reasonable doubt. Yet, if you watched how Fox News reported on the case this week, you never heard about those facts, and instead you heard the conclusion it was murder over and over again. For example, in the clip from supposedly straight news reporter Adam Housley talking to Fox News anchor Martha McCallum over here.
Incredible. I mean, it's got to make people think twice about how the safety of that city, given what's happened. It's almost a year now, Adam, since Kate Steinle died and was killed in the city of San Francisco. So where are we on that investigation?
Yeah, I want to clarify, too, it's a new city rule, but it really just verifies the one that was already in place. And what the legislature, with the actual, in respect to the guy who murdered her, he's still in court. That's still going forward. In fact, the family has not yet commented on what happened here. The Steinle family last night, they have not yet to come out with a statement. We do expect to hear from them at some point. Down on the pier where she was murdered, there is a bench now in remembrance of her. And then Juan Francisco Lopez-Sanchez, he's the guy still waiting for trial in San Francisco, Martha.
So the Fox News reporter actually called this possibly accidental shooting a murder twice in that report. So I actually tweeted to him about this journalistic lapse, and while I got no reply to my tweet, when Adam Housley returned an hour later, his report was a little better, referring to the killing rather than the murder of Kate Steinle at the beginning, though still concluding with the incorrect assumption that the killing was a murder, as you can see here.
Very little changes at all to the sanctuary city law here in San Francisco. What it did, Heather, was unanimously reaffirm the law already in place, a very controversial law, especially since the killing of Kate Steinle here nearly a year ago as she walked along the waterfront and was killed by an illegal immigrant that ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, had been seeking for some time. We have yet to hear from the family of Kate Steinle, and also the man who's accused of her murder is yet to go to trial, Heather.
Now, at least the Fox News reporter made it clear the case still has to go to trial, but he's still calling it murder and, more importantly, not reporting the strong facts that the shooting was accidental without the intent and malice required for murder in California. And that's especially important because that Fox News reporter was not the last person on Fox News that day to convict the accused of murder without a trial, as you can see from former San Francisco Assistant District Attorney and now Fox News co-host of The Five, Kimberly Guilfoyle, in her introduction to the same topic that same day in this clip.
The law came under renewed scrutiny after an illegal immigrant murdered 32-year-old Kate Steinle. Francisco Sanchez had been deported 5 times back to Mexico, but had returned to the U.S. and to San Francisco in particular because he knew the city wouldn't report him to the feds. This is such a disturbing story, and I mean, it seems like it just happened yesterday. I mean, I worked in those courtrooms as Assistant District Attorney of San Francisco, and how frustrating when you couldn't even get the defense attorney, the defense to give you their true name and identity, and you would have to print them and go through weeks of stuff to figure out who they were, and you'd see 25 aliases, and it was all because they wanted to avoid any kind of report or detainer to ICE, etc. So it's just very frustrating. It ended up being a revolving door, Dana. And when you see these type of things, this, crimes that are committed by people, drunk drivers, innocents murdered, and look what happened with Kate Steinle just walking with her father.
Notice how she even emphasized the word murder there at the end, and of course, none of the 5 panelists on Fox News' The Five ever questioned the conclusion that this was murder, though one of the other co-hosts, Eric Bolling, repeated that conclusion while also giving what may have been an inadvertent explanation as to why it's so important to the Fox News pro-Republican agenda to label this case as murder over here.
So here's the timeline. Donald Trump announces he's going to run for president middle of June. In July, and he says, I'm going to build a wall because Mexico is sending some of the illegals that are come over, are the worst of the worst, murderers, rapists, etc. He's called a bigot. He's horrible. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's going to divide the country. In 2 weeks or 3 weeks, Kate Steinle is murdered by an illegal who's been sent back 7 or so times with a rap sheet this long of felonies. And everyone says, well, maybe Trump has something there. And he kind of built his campaign on that. So that's how that part of it went down.
So maybe that's why so many people on Fox News were so intent on calling this case murder. After Donald Trump launched his campaign calling Mexicans rapists and murderers, this was the case that supposedly proved him right. In that context, I guess the facts about a bullet that definitely ricocheted off the ground from a gun that may have misfired don't fit the Fox News Republican agenda, especially not in this election year, but I want to know what you think. Did Fox News repeatedly call this case murder to further a pro-Republican, pro-Trump agenda? And given that biased conclusion was repeatedly reported on Fox News, shouldn't Fox News run at least one story with a correction and an explanation of the facts showing the deadly shot in this case definitely ricocheted off the ground and may well have resulted from an accidental misfire?
YouTube, you decide.